All right, what's up, people? What's up? What's up? What's up? We're going to talk about some bills today. We're going to talk about how things are moving in the legislature. Stuff is happening. Stuff is happening. Stuff is happening. Let's wait till a few people get on in here. Need to see something. What's up, Mr. Lunatic? How you doing? All right. Good. We got some people in here. Let's talk. Let's talk about some bills. All right. I put in the bottom of this video. Let me make sure. Yes. I mean, it looks kind of convoluted now that I'm looking at it, the way that the editing copied and pasted. That's not the way it looked when I copied and pasted that. So I want y'all to know. But first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about this HR 74. And what I'm gonna do is I want to play a video for you of the discussion about HR 74. Specifically, I'm very proud of Rick Briscoe, our Open Carry Texas legislative director, and his words. I'm telling you, every time Rick Briscoe gets up there and talks to the legislature, it is an educational opportunity for everyone on the left, on the right, members, non-members. One of the reasons that I like having Rick as our legislative director is because he has got an encyclopedic brain. The dude remembers everything, and he's the exact opposite of me, who can't even remember what I had for breakfast today. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to start with the video of the discussion of HR 74. And essentially what this is, you all remember that there was a shooting at Bellaire High School last January, so a little over a year ago. And it wasn't really an intentional shooting. A kid brought a gun to school and was showing it off, and obviously had no training in what is real gun safety, which is, keep your finger off the trigger, make sure it's unloaded, never point at somebody. And he accidentally killed his friend. Well, actually, I'm not even going to say accidentally. He negligently killed his friend, was charged and convicted of manslaughter. As you know, what you may not know is what's the difference between murder and manslaughter. It's malice aforethought, essentially. So you kill someone feloniously or negligently, that's generally manslaughter, but you didn't intend to do it, or there was no malice aforethought. For example, you walk in on your wife cheating on you with another man, and you just immediately get enraged and shoot the guy. That's manslaughter, not murder, because you didn't have any, there was no planning that went into it, no thought that went into it. It was a spontaneous act. That's the difference between murder and manslaughter. That's why he was charged with manslaughter, because he did commit a homicide, but there was no malice aforethought. But this resolution, what this does is, and I'll read it to you, and then we'll get to the video. You can also read it below. Hey, Mad Cat, Mike Fortson, what's up, brother? Hey, and I won't be specific about this, but you guys see Mike Fortson in the chat there. All I'm going to do is, if you're one of the praying type, please pray for Mike and his family. Okay, I'm not going to go into the specifics because those are private, but do please pray for Mike and his family and the challenges they're going through right now. Hey, Eddie, what's up? Rose, Joe, John Doe, Mad Cat. So I am in the East Coast time zone, which means it's a 10:45 here. So yeah, I'm always up late because I'm always studying or doing something, and generally it's not until late that I'm able to get online and start catching up on things like that. Alabama Camera, how you doing? So here's the resolution that we're about to hear some testimony on. I want to read it to you. Whereas Houston area residents were shocked and deeply saddened by the tragic shooting death of Cesar Cortes on January 14th, 2020 at the age of 19. And whereas a senior at Bellaire High School, Cesar Cortes was the commander of the school's JROTC Delta Company. He was killed in the JROTC supply room before drill practice when a younger cadet was showing off a handgun and pulled the trigger, hitting Mr. Cortez in the chest. And in the chest, the shooter was convicted of manslaughter in January 2021, so just a couple months ago. And whereas Cesar Cortes was an outstanding young man who inspired others with his natural leadership ability, deeply patriotic, and had already enlisted in the U.S. Army, he was quiet, serious, and hardworking in school. And those who shared his love and friendship were drawn to his kindness, sense of humor, and winning smile. And whereas the death of Cesar Cortes devastated his family, including his mother Cecilia, father Antonio, and brother Dylan, it also traumatized his school and his community, adding to the anguish. Several individuals reported only after the fatal shooting that they had seen the younger cadet at school with the gun in his possession earlier on that terrible day. Moreover, the campus had 2 previous instances of weapons possession reported in discipline data for 2018 and 2019. And in that period, more than 24 cases were reported across the Houston Independent School District. And whereas Cesar Cortes planned to devote his career to the defense of his fellow Americans, and his life can best be honored by ensuring that no other family endure the heartbreak and loss that his loved ones have endured. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives 87th Legislature hereby pay tribute to the memory of Cesar Cortes and express support for stronger firearm safety measures. Now, that was all well and good. Right? It sounded really good. Why not honor someone who's been murdered? Killed. It's still a murder. It was just a manslaughter murder. No, it was manslaughter. The two things are different. Sorry. It was a manslaughter. So the man was killed. The kid was killed. Well, he's 19 years old. 19-year-old high school. But anyway, he was senselessly killed because somebody didn't teach this kid proper firearm safety measure or safety. Now the problem is that sounds great, right? It sounds great that that the legislature should express support for stronger firearm safety measures. The problem is this bill has been introduced by someone who has completely bastardized the term firearm safety measures. See, the gun control crowd has recognized that Americans don't like gun control. So what they've done is they've rebranded their desire to abolish our rights under the guise of gun safety measures. So it doesn't mean the same thing to them. I guarantee you, had I been there, I would have asked, if I was in the legislature, I would have asked, well, do you support gun safety training in classrooms where students are taught how to properly handle a gun? I guarantee you that not a single that the sponsor of this bill would have agreed to that. I guarantee you, because that's not what the left means by gun safety. Okay, what they mean by gun safety is keeping guns out of the hands of everyone except the leftist government. Okay, and the cops that they hate so much. But they're trying to deal with that by getting more leftist cops into office, and then it's okay that the police are the only ones that are armed. There's a lot of good testimony about HR 74, and the main issue that they had was that last sentence. It was a great resolution that would have done great things, would have had everybody's support on it, because why wouldn't we honor the life of somebody who was going to make a noble endeavor out of his future in the best way that he knew how? But then they had to add in the part about gun safety, and that be it resolved that the legislature express support for stronger firearm safety measures. What that means is difficult background checks, taxes on guns, reducing what kind of guns you can have, reducing who can have a gun. That's what they call that. When in reality, firearm safety measures that are actually firearm safety measures. Notice the second time I didn't use the air quotes, because those firearm safety measures are, assume your gun is always loaded. Never point your gun at someone or something that you don't intend to shoot. And of course, if you're going to point at someone, then it's got to be in self-defense. And then, keep your finger off the trigger and that kind of stuff. That's not what the left means. Now, what I want to do is, and I think this is the correct file, I want to play with you, and I'm probably going to end up Possibly. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear me. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play just a couple seconds of this, and I want to see if you can hear me through the audio. And if you can, then we'll continue on it.
Good afternoon,
Oh, yeah, you're
Chairman
going to be able to speak.
White,
Okay.
Vice Chair Retta Bowers. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Sorry about that. I actually I didn't realize that because I bought the full program, I guess apparently after I made this video. So I apologize for this watermark. I thought I'd fix that, but I guess I didn't. So we're just gonna have to deal with the watermark. But future videos won't have that because I did purchase the full program. And if you want to, help me, because I do have to pay for some of these things to make my videos a little bit better. Feel free to hit that super chat or any of the links below. But let's continue. This is again on HR 74.
Good afternoon, honorable members of this committee. I present to you House Resolution 74, and I am here rising today to honor the life of Cesar Cortez.
Now, this is the bill author. She's just explaining what the bill is about and all that kind of stuff. This is Representative Johnson out of Houston, and it looks like I've got some really bad. I don't know what's going on with the video. At least on my end, it looks really bad.
JROTC,
Does it look really bad on your end?
already enrolled
I'm sorry, just listen.
on his way to serve our country in the Army.
But she's a leftist, moms demand action irritator from Houston.
On this day in school, another 16-year-old child brought a weapon, pulled out that weapon in order to show it off, and shot Cesar in the chest. Cesar died in Bellaire High School in our district.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is freaking that's just I can't stomach that. Let's try and go. Let's if we're gonna stomach anything, I want to stomach something that makes sense here. So I'm gonna skip to Rick's testimony here. Rick is our legislative director, and he's going to speak about the bill. And I think out of all the witnesses, I really do think he laid this out the best. There were, I believe, 3 people that spoke on this, and if it's not unbearable, I'll try to get the others in there as well. But here's Rick's testimony on HR 74.
Madam Chair and members, I am Rick Briscoe. I represent Open Carry Texas, a Texas grassroots civil rights organization specializing in First, Second, and Fourth Amendment issues, and we speak out on veterans issues on behalf of our many veteran members. We are taking a position on the bill rather than for or against it because of the concluding language. First off, I think it's important to state that we extend our sincerest sympathies to the family and friends of this fine young man. The area of concern to us is the matter of firearms safety measures, whatever that's supposed to mean. There are already laws against the conduct which was involved in this sad incident. There are also programs in existence which the school resource officer, the policeman, is supposed to be familiar with that are free to the school districts. It costs them nothing, that educate children at various grade levels on nothing more nor less than firearm safety. They do not promote hunting, competitive shooting, firearms ownership. It's simply firearms safety. something that unfortunately we have found far too many school districts do not avail themselves of, and we think that they should. In fact, the existing law says they may provide this training. We think the law should say they shall provide this training.
Right.
It takes about a 30-minute class at most. And if the schools would avail themselves of the available resources, we think incidents like this would become even rarer. And therefore, to repeat, we take a position simply on the bill. We would oppose any additional restrictions on law-abiding citizens. Thank you, ma'am.
And so, Mr. Briscoe, you are neutral on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any questions of Mr. Briscoe? Thank you for your testimony.
All right. So let me well, no, I'm not going to remove that yet because there's a few more. And again, look, guys, I don't have a lot of great equipment, so I do what I can. All my money's going to law school, so that's all I can say about it. So we're just gonna have to suffer through this until I get out of law school, or I can buy something that makes this better. I'm also in a small town that the internet absolutely sucks. And so I think when I'm streaming 2 videos or more at the same time, it's just going to suck. So you're just going to have to suffer with me. I suffer through it. The internet's great for what I have to do when I'm researching cases and law school homework and all that. But by golly, when it comes to live streaming, it's frustrating beyond belief. And the sad thing is, it's even better here than what I have back home. But anyway, so like Briscoe, like Rick said, we don't oppose this kind of a bill. What we oppose is that last line talking about so-called gun safety measures. Now, it just gets a little bit more frustrating from here on out. I don't think I'm going to, as a matter of fact, I really just want you to hear Rick's, part of it there. And that's HR 74. So we're going to move on. It's just a resolution. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't create laws or criminal activity. It doesn't expand liberty or anything like that. But what it does is it makes it would cast the legislature as a pro-gun control legislature, which in effect casts Texas as a pro-gun control state. And we can't have that. And so we didn't oppose or support it. I think GOA came out and actually did oppose the resolution. And there was one person that came out and said they support the resolution, but I think what they really meant, because based on her testimony, she said the same thing Rick did. So I think she was just confused. And so she's going to be on the record as supporting this resolution, but she really didn't support the resolution. I think this is what happens when you don't prepare, when you go into a hearing and you haven't read what the resolution says and you're not familiar with how it works. You make those kinds of mistakes. Now, she is able to, I believe, go back in and have her testimony changed. She can amend that, and I hope she does. All right, let's move on to one of the things I want to move on to now is HB 496. HB 496 is wait, which one was this? Hang on. Let me go back. Let me go back here. Because I've got 4 bills here that I'm tracking that we're going to talk about today. Okay, yeah. So this is about HB 496. HB 496 is a bill that would require law enforcement to identify themselves when asked by a member of the public. Rick, I'm going to start with Rick's testimony because Rick really lays it out because he's talking about our experiences in open carry Texas. If you're a First Amendment activist, you've seen the videos out there of law enforcement, the bullies, okay? The bullies out there that when they are asked to identify themselves, especially when they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, try to hide their identities. Okay. I think there's one problem with HB 496. Here's what the bill says. It says it adds an article to Section 2 of the Code of Criminal Procedure that's titled Duty to Display and Provide Name and Identification Number. Here it is. A peace officer who is discharging an official duty and is not undercover shall, 1, display in a visible manner at all times the officer's first and last name and badge number or other identification, and provide the officer's first and last name and badge number or other identification number to any person on request. A peace officer wearing riot gear that includes a helmet or a shield is considered to have complied with Section A1 only if the officer displays the required information on each of those items. A peace officer commits an offense if the officer violates this section, and it is a Class C misdemeanor. So essentially, it's like a traffic ticket, okay? It's a great, I can't believe this has to be the law, but it does. And so I'm going to play Rick's video first, his testimony on this bill. And obviously Open Carry Texas supports this because we believe that, if you're going to file a complaint, you need to know who you're filing a complaint against. Okay. If you're going to file a compliment, you need to know who you're going to file a compliment against. So this is Rick Briscoe testifying on behalf of House Bill 496. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Madam Chair and members, thank you. I'm Rick Briscoe, representing Open Carry Texas, testifying in support of the bill. It's really a very simple proposition. We're dealing with a minority of police officers who unfortunately will use a circumstance of anonymity to give someone a hard time. Let's just make no mistake about it. And I do wish to emphasize it's a minority, but the minority sometimes makes it necessary for us to make the rules explicit. This is such a rule. A police officer should not be ashamed to give his name or his badge number. If there's a problem, the citizen knows who to reference when they file a complaint at a later time. If the officer did a good job, sometimes they get a letter from a citizen how well they were treated during a traffic stop. It does cut both ways. Being with Open Carry Texas, if you poke around on YouTube or elsewhere on the internet, you'll see a lot of videos. Sometimes it's body cam video from police officers, sometimes it's video from citizens where one of these types of officers just starts, well, to be blunt, bullying people. And if they have to disclose who they are or what their badge number is, it may or may not cause them to behave in a better manner, but at least it can be addressed at a later time. And there is a common misunderstanding amongst some of these same police officers on the requirement of a citizen to identify. Penal Code Section 38.02 sub A says that a citizen is required to provide their truthful name, residence address, or date of birth when under lawful arrest. They are not required, number one, to provide a driver's license unless it's a traffic stop or other physical forms of identification under that statute. There also is no just random stopping people and saying, sir, I'd like to know who you are. Why? Because I want to. Well, that's not good enough. So the two sort of go together, at least in our experience, and therefore we support the bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Briscoe.
All right, so that's our position on it. It's pretty cut and dry. We've had experiences where we've had to make essentially what amounts to a generalized complaint because an officer's refused to identify himself, and this happens a lot, especially with First Amendment auditors who are monitoring when the police interact with the public and trying to film this for good reason. But if an officer is engaging with you, the very first right that you have is for an officer to identify himself so that you understand what his authority is for the stop and for the interaction. Now, one of the things that you guys that have been following me for a long time know that I love to do is generally when we have these bills that are going to be debated, I like to kind of wait a little bit and put my name in the hat to testify somewhat later. And the reason I do that is because I want to hear all sides of the argument so that, because look, Rick does such a great job with our narrative and explaining what open carry Texas is, what our position is. And so I want to be able to get up there and really hammer out the lies that are generally told from the opposition, and be able to address those specifically. So I usually have a pretty ad hoc testimony when I go to these things. But one of the things I really like to do is I like to pay attention to what is the position of CLEAT, which is the Combined Law Enforcement Officer Association of Texas. What is the position of CLEAT and why? And what is the position of TCOL, which is the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement? What is their position and why? Because these are the two agencies in Texas that are most dedicated to ensuring that law enforcement officers have no accountability and that citizens have no rights. These are the two organizations that are some of the most tyrannical groups out there, that are the reason why we have such bad legislation and why bad cops are able to permeate our law enforcement officers or department, excuse me. And so I wanted you to hear, so keep in mind, this bill, the purpose of the bill is to mandate that the citizenry knows who is approaching them and under what authority they're approaching them, right? Name, badge number. Name, badge number. Name is who, badge number is the authority, okay? Because the name has no authority without the badge. And so what the bill does is it ensures that law enforcement officers make sure that they inform the public who they are and what their authority is to conduct the stop or the engagement or the conversation or whatever. All right. But yet, it does that sound controversial to anybody? Does it sound like something that, I mean, hell, there's a law that says if I'm under arrest, I have to do that. There's a law that says if I'm being detained, I can't lie. But there's no law that says that law enforcement has to identify. Now, most departments have these policies. But as you and I know, law enforcement officers generally don't care about the policies. But here's what CLEAT, this is the testimony from CLEAT. And I would have ripped them a new one had I been there and testified after CLEAT. And I'll rip them a new one after you watch this video.
Associations of Texas. We are testifying in opposition of the bill. I can say as a former patrol supervisor that there are officers being reprimanded for not identifying themselves when asked. We agree that this should be a policy. We agree that officers should identify themselves when asked. And we also know that this is a policy internally in most police organizations in the state of Texas currently. It's one thing to draft legislation that would standardize that policy statewide, but it's another thing to make this a criminal offense for an officer who fails to do so. There's a lot of factors that could go into that. I'm not going to discuss all of the factors of how this might happen unintentionally on the part of an officer, but they are investigated as policy violations, and officers are reprimanded for those violations. Generally, though, we're going to be against any criminalizing of conduct that is a policy violation. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Szymanski, thank you so very much. Are there any questions, members? Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what CLEAT doesn't want to do is it doesn't want to criminalize policy stuff, but they have no problems criminalizing policies when it comes to us, you and me. Because if it's a policy issue that cops have to identify, why should I have to identify? Who's harmed when I refuse to identify? It should be a policy thing that we have to identify. But the problem is, the CLEAT does not want any accountability whatsoever for its officers in the state of Texas. And she even said right there that nearly all departments have a policy of identifying. Nearly all departments. Guess what that means? That means there are departments in Texas that do not have this policy. And if they don't have that policy, why not? And that's what this law does, is it mandates that. And look, these people are accountable to us. They are our public servants. They work for us. We have a right to know when someone is asserting authority and using that authority to dictate where you can go or what you can do, whether you're free to leave, whether you have to get out of your car or stay in your car, whether you have to stand here or stand there, whether you can film here or film there. We have a right to know what that authority is. And I would love to rally the CLEAT offices, Sean. We have a right to know what that authority is, but CLEAT doesn't want to criminalize that. The problem is, she just mentioned that officers are reprimanded for that. Okay, you get it. Hey, don't do it again. Don't do it again. But guess what happens? It happens every single day. There are, in Texas alone, video after video after video after video of officers refusing to identify themselves in departments where they're supposed to identify themselves. But you know what? Those officers are still wearing badges. Okay, they're still wearing badges. So obviously the policies aren't working. Now, what the law will do is ensure that there is no need for reprimand, because the law will reprimand them and hold them accountable for a Class C misdemeanor or failure to identify, just like you and I are held accountable for failure to identify. But yet CLEAT doesn't want that accountability. CLEAT opposes anything having to do with accountability. CLEAT will oppose anything having to do with expanding your liberty. They showed it in many of these bills that that were heard today. And I've got another video I'm working on right now. It's the Universal Background Check Bill, 52, HB 52. I'm going to do another video once I've got this thing completely converted, and we're going to listen in on that. And what I'm going to try to do is do like a voiceover on that, and we're just going to listen to the whole testimony, because that's going to be, you've got to hear this. You've got to hear the arguments about these bills, and it boggles my mind. But that right there was HB 496. Call your state rep if you're in Texas. Call your state representative, especially if they're on the House Committee on Homeland Safety and Homeland Security and Public Safety. That's Representative White's bill. I'll tell you what, I am so elated that Representative White is the chair of this committee. And I'm telling you what, I sent a message to Rick earlier while I'm watching this, and I listened to Representative Goodwin. And I think she is a perfect example of why we probably need an IQ test prior to allowing someone to become a representative. Because I'm telling you, she asks the dumbest ass questions I've ever heard, and makes the dumbest and most illogical statements I've ever heard. And yet she's on this committee. And look, I'm not saying anything about her. I'm saying about her statements. All right. I'm talking about the things that she says when she opens her mouth. And I think universally she gets her ass handed to her when she makes these stupid statements by other witnesses and things like that. Who is the group of police chiefs that testify against our rights of Gary? That's CLEAT. That's CLEAT and the Texas Police Chiefs Association. TMPA, Texas Municipal Police Association. So you got the TMPA that testifies against us, you got TCOL that testifies against us, and you got CLEAT that testifies against us. Now, TCOL is a state agency. That's the agency that commissions law enforcement officers. The other two are like unions and associations and stuff like that that advocate for the lack of accountability of law enforcement. And that's it for those two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this stream now, and I'm going to reopen it if y'all are still awake to talk about House Bill 52, which is the universal background check. And that'll probably be anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, maybe as many as 30 minutes away from now. That I'll have this all ready. I don't know how long this goes, and I don't know if Rick was here, I could ask him exactly how long the hearing on the background check bill actually took. But it boggles my mind. It boggles my mind that there is opposition to simply requiring a cop to tell a citizen when he's barking commands who he is and what authority he has to bark those commands. Okay, that's why people ask for name and badge number. It's not just something that's weird. It's not just something that, sounds good and it's to make problems. It's because the name is the identification, and yes, the badge number is the identification as well, but the name is the identification, the badge is the authority. Okay, so if you don't have the badge, the name can't come up to you and start making demands. That's why you ask for the name and the badge number. My badge number was 11666. Yes, I know that's a weird number, but that was my badge number when I served. 11666. Anybody that came up to me and wanted to know when I was doing questionings, interrogations, interviews, anything like that, if they wanted to know what my badge number is, it's now retired 11666, but that was my badge number, 11666. All right. I had no problem giving that to anybody. Why? Because I wasn't doing anything wrong. And if I was doing something wrong, I probably didn't know I was doing something wrong. And at least if they were able to report me and say, hey, badge number 11666, but that was the authority that I had. And my badge came with credentials. So, I was a federal agent. So we have what's called a badge and credentials. The badge is the authority. The credentials is essentially what I'm allowed to do. And it enjoins people to that I have lawful authority over to help me in my investigation. All right. And I investigated national security crimes. I didn't do like street level crime. I did like counterterrorism. I did joint terrorism task force, sedition, treason, sabotage, all that kind of stuff, espionage, things like that. All right, I'm going to be back. That was the two bills that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, by the way, I'm going to say this on both bills. Next Thursday, let me make sure I've got the right time. Make sure I got the right time. Let me find it. Where are you? All right, next Thursday, March 25th, guys, take a day off. You have to take a day off, okay? The constitutional carry hearing in committee is Thursday, all right? You got it's going to be a long day, brothers, sisters. It's going to be a long day, but we need you there at the Capitol on Thursday for the committee hearing. Thursday, March 25th. And I think the hearing starts after they adjourn, which is going to be sometime. They're probably going to start in the morning. They'll take a break. They'll go to the floor and do a bunch of stuff on the floor. And then once they adjourn on the floor, they will come back. All right. It says, let me see what bills they're going to be hearing here. All right, so they're going to have four bills. They're going to have Biederman's constitutional carry bill, which is 1238. Let me find. That's Biederman's constitutional carry bill. Now, White's constitutional carry bill 821 is being rebranded as 1911. Now, we support both of these. Okay, they're both good bills. 1927. That's the one I'm not sure of. 1927. I don't have everything before me. Is also going to be heard as well, and that's by Matt Schaefer, as well as 2900 by Hefner. Schaefer's bill 1927 is Hang on, let me see what this is here. I'm trying to find my notes on all this crap. Here, you know what? Here, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna call my expert. Make sure y'all. Hey, can y'all hear that?
Schaefer's bill.
Hey, what?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Schaefer's bill is age 21. If you're not a disqualified person, you don't need a license.
Okay, so it's also a version of constitutional carry.
Yes, it's an age 21 version.
Okay, and what about the what was the other one I was looking at? What about stupid piece?
1911, the way it's worded is a little awkward, but it's similar to what he did in the past. It's if you can qualify for a license to carry, you don't need a license.
Oh, okay, great.
If you could.
Yeah.
And there's a bill related to it that would get rid of all the various and sundry nit-and-away disqualifiers like property tax, child support, misdemeanor, other than basically if you could purchase a gun through an FFL, you could get a license like in Arizona.
Okay, and HB 2900, that's Hefner's. That's a constitutional carry bill as well, right?
Yeah, I've got to look that one up for the exact details, but they're all good.
Okay, so it's actually 4 constitutional carry bills that are going to be heard. Now,
I wouldn't go into this on your broadcast.
Well, you're on my broadcast, so don't. Hey, whoa. Don't go into it if you don't want it on my broadcast, because I'm having people listen to you.
Let me make a statement for the broadcast then.
Okay.
It's unknown at this point in time whether some of these bills will be consolidated either in committee or in calendars. But Open Carry Texas is supporting all of them. They are all good bills.
Okay, great. That's all I really wanted to hear, and it looks like everybody was able to hear you. And if you want to, there was something else to discuss, we can probably do that tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, brother. Thanks for the info. All right, so there you go. There's our legislative director, Rick Briscoe, telling us what all these bills were, and they're all constitutional carry bills. So, and we support them all. I'm gonna put the bill numbers in the chat here for y'all. So it's HB 1238. It's HB 821, but that's going to be rebranded as 1911. That's why it's in parentheses. So right now it's going to be called 821. But at some point, it's going to be rebranded as 1911, and that's White's bill. And then we've got 1927 and 2900. So you can go and look those up yourself. You guys can figure out whether you support those or don't support those, which one you think is the best. I would say support all of them. If they consolidate them, which is probably what they're going to do, they're probably going to take all 4 bills and say, okay, we're laying out all 4 bills and do the testimony on all 4 bills. And what you would want to do is if there's a bill that you probably support a little bit more than another, go up there, say, hey, look, I support all of these bills for these reasons. If you got a personal story, tell a personal story. But I really prefer this bill over the other bills. Drew Springer's constitutional carry bill doesn't exist. Remember, but it exists in the Senate. Remember, Drew Springer was elected to the Senate, and so his constitutional carry bill disappeared because he's no longer a House member, but it is in the Senate. So that one's going to be in the State Affairs Committee once that comes up. So Springer's bill is still out there. It's just not in the House. Yeah, so don't worry about that. It did disappear, but it reappeared in the Senate. And he filed a slew of good bills. Springer, he impressed me. I was not endorsing him in the runoff, but I'm happy to endorse him now as long as he helps to push these bills and didn't just file them to look good. Okay. All right. So there you go. There's that. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to finish up the HB 52 bill testimony, and then I'm going to come back hopefully tonight. If it takes too long, because I do have some homework I got to do to get back to. If it takes too long, then I'll probably do this tomorrow night, or I'll probably do this again tomorrow night. and I'll have the full video ready for you. And hopefully the new software that I paid for will help. And you can help us by going to opencarrytexas.org, sign up for our email list. Don't forget, Thursday, March 25th, be at the Capitol. Prepare to be there all day long, because I guarantee you the Moms Demand Action, because they can't get it anywhere else, are going to be there opposing it. The League of Women Voters, you know, they try to make it sound as if women oppose this stuff, is going to be there opposing it. I'm sure Texas gun dense people will be there to oppose it. And, you know, your normal menagerie. Probably even the law enforcement unions will be there to oppose it, just like they did open carry. All right, guys, I'm going to leave. Y'all be safe and be free. And if you don't see me in about a half an hour, if you don't see me by 12:30, I will not be on. Okay, that means that the testimony took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. But I'm going to end this, finish the video. If I can't finish the video, or if I finish the video but it's too late, so I can get back to my homework, then I'll do that, and we'll come back tomorrow. All right, y'all, take care, be safe, be free.